Hello and welcome to the first ever broadcast of Female Empowered Media.
I'm Ellie.
And I'm Poppy.
Coming up on today's programme,
Rishi Sunak has doubled down on anti-trans comments made at the Conservative Party conference.
Should know when hospitals are talking about men or women. And we shouldn't get bullied into believing that people can be any sex they want to be. They can't. A man is a man and a woman is a woman. That's just common sense.
we will have reporter Courtney with us in the studio to talk to us about how this could affect those who are part of the trans community.
And one of the first ever girls-only nights out was held in Liverpool last week.
We will be taking a look at how this went and discussing its importance later on in the show.
And next, Ellie, how much housework would you say you do at home?
It just depends on my mood, because some days I could be really productive. I'll hoover, I'll clean, I'll do my washing, demold the bathroom. Some days I'll go into bed and just forget about all of it.
Right.
But a recent study has proven that women still do more housework than men.
Ah, interesting. Well, I would say I definitely don't do enough. But we decided to speak to the general public in Manchester about whether they think women do more housework than men.
I think definitely historically that would certainly be the case, and probably there's still a lot of that going on. In my personal experience, I live with two girls and a boy, and the boy does housework. But that's individual, that's a personality. Yeah. I'm very bad at remembering to do it.
But first up today, we wanted to welcome everyone watching to Female Empowered Media, or as we like to call it, F.E.M.
Yes, welcome everyone. This is a show where we'll be discussing and celebrating women across the country and exploring issues surrounding women.
We will, and we want this to feel like a safe space for everyone. And if you're watching, we want you to have fun and hopefully learn something. Also, if you have a story that you want to share with us, you can message us on Instagram at Female Empowered Media.
So Poppy, to kick off this week's show, who would you say is your female inspiration?
I think it's a fitting kick-off to our first episode, and I would have to say that my mum is, and I'm not trying to be soppy, but she has inspired me the most in what I do. What about you, Ellie?
Well, this is going to sound soppy too, but I would say my nan, because everything I've wanted to achieve, she's helped me do that, and she's literally the strongest woman I know.
There you go. And I think it's always the women who are closest to us who inspire us the most. But with all that being said, let's get going.
Let's go. Our first story today, reporter Courtney Holder is here to tell us about the comments made by Rishi Sunak last week regarding the trans community.
So we welcome Courtney to the studio now. Hello Courtney, thank you for joining us.
Hello. Okay, thanks for having me.
Lovely
it's nice
to have
be
you
here on the first show. It's so nice.
It is, unfortunately not speaking about such a nice issue.
No, not really a very nice issue to be discussing. So I don't know if you remember last week, the Conservative Party conference took place in Manchester, where we heard the Health Secretary's speech about the government's proposal to ban trans women from all women wards. So for those of you who don't know, the proposal would mean that trans people would need to be put in their own private rooms, or they would be with others that match their biological sex as opposed to the gender they identify as, which is what the current procedure is. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak made further comments regarding the trans community during his speech on Wednesday.
Patients should know when hospitals are talking about men or women. And we shouldn't get bullied into believing that people can be any sex they want to be. They can't. A man is a man and a woman is a woman. That's just common sense.
So obviously he used the word bully there, and I would say that that's quite an interesting word, and I think a lot of people have come out and said how the trans community are the community that feel bullied in this situation. So could you tell us a bit more about how this is affecting the trans community?
Well, it is just quite interesting, to be honest, that the government would choose to use that word when you think about the obstacles that trans people are already facing within the community. They spend a lot of time advocating for themselves, fighting for their own rights, fighting to be heard. So for the government to sit there and say that they're being bullied because they're not happy about having to put the right terminology on the NHS website just seems a little bit ridiculous. And it's really upset a lot of people, and for a community that's already facing so many struggles within society, and these comments and policies are only looking to further outcast them. I actually spoke with 18-year-old Davy Pitcher, who identifies as a trans woman, and she believes that being put into an all-male ward could potentially put her at greater unease during what is already a stressful time for her, you know, being in the hospital. But there's also fears that the policy could put trans people and trans women specifically in danger. You know, people in hospital are less tolerant if they're in pain, for example, while they're recovering. You know, they're in danger of, you know, being attacked, or, you know, people saying things to them while they're, you know, very vulnerable. She also told me this is definitely going to make it more challenging, certainly for trans people, to have confidence in the system, as well as confidence to approach a medical professional full stop. So for a community that's, you know, already fighting, already struggles with having to reach out medically, having the government and feeling like they're not backing them in any way is going to put more strain on them.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for joining us,
Thank you for joining us today.
And next up today, 83% of women want improved safety in nightclubs, according to a YouGov survey. Some believe that the safest way for women to go out is to women's only clubs.
3 women set up a women's only night and a club in Liverpool, which saw huge success. Let's take a look at the event itself.
These kind of nights are clearly incredibly important for women's safety.
Yeah.
I think it makes you have a better night out because you feel safe.
You feel more comfortable.
Exactly,
Like you're not
which
worried
means
about anyone.
you're able to drink, you're able to do whatever you want without feeling unsafe. Would
Yeah.
you go to a women's only night?
I would, yeah. I'm actually planning on going to the next one when I figure out what it is, because it looks really good.
Well, I think we're all planning a little F.E.M. group night out in Liverpool maybe for the
Sounds
next
pretty
night
good.
out. So,
Next tonight, a new report has revealed that women still do more housework than men.
yes, more than 3/4 of respondents to the British Social Attitudes Survey said that household labour should be split, yet 2/3 said that women still do more than their fair share. Ellie, what do you think about this?
Well, I actually went out onto the streets of Manchester today to find out what the public thought of this and whether they do more housework and who does it in their household.
I say yes, because I think that men probably expect it from a woman to do that, to do the housework.
Do you agree?
Yeah, I'd say I agree. I think it's very much like a generational thing though sometimes. Like I don't know if it's going to change at some point where men are willing to put in more work, but I do think that it seems to be women are more prone to doing it, and I think they want to do it more. Like I feel like men just don't do it as much.
I think definitely historically that will certainly be the case, and probably there's still a lot of that going on. In my personal experience, I live with 2 girls and a boy, and the boy does all the housework. But that's individual, you know. That's a personality. I'm very bad at remembering to do it.
Yeah, probably. I try and help out, you know, washing up, stuff like that. But I'll be honest, my mum definitely does more, so.
Yes, because it's sort of been built into the society, because obviously it's been a patriarchal society for so long. So I feel like now it's sort of built in, it's so hard to like overcome it, but hopefully that will change.
I think, yes, in general, in my experience, people I know, that yes, most of the women do the housework, but in my circumstance, that I do it all because my husband's disabled, so he can't do it, but he would have done it actually.
Yeah.
He would have done a lot more of the housework, so the circumstances can be slightly different.
Yeah.
But in general, I think, with my experience, I think most of my friends do the housework.
Next up this evening, we have Freya with us to talk about Greta Gerwig's take on feminism in her film Frances Ha.
Again? Our pick for this week's feminist film spotlight is Noah Baumbach's indie rom-com Frances Ha. The film centres around Frances, a chaotic and awkward woman, and her friendship with Sophie.
We are going to take over the world.
The pair's relationship is integral to the plot, and, on a spin on the typical rom-com, is the pair we root for throughout the film. Baumbach explores the experience of a woman in her late 20s, someone just simply existing, and this is enough to carry her own story.
What do you do?
It's kind of hard to explain.
Because what you do is complicated?
Because I don't really do it.
With themes of identity, purpose, and friendship, along with Greta Gerwig's star turn as the titular Frances. The film stands as an all-time modern feminist classic that everyone and their best friend should see once.
So we now have Freya with us in the studio. So first of all, I suppose the main question is, what did you think of the film? Did you enjoy it? I suppose is the best place to start.
Oh, I can say I loved it. It's a brilliant, refreshing take on just women trying to figure out their lives. There's a lot of focus on success instead of romantic involvement, and there's no avid need for romantic interest because that's not realistic in my opinion. She's not invested in romance, instead focused on her friendships and career, and this is what motivates her. It's just a lovely refresh of the rom-com.
And how would you say that Greta presents women within the world of Frances Ha?
I think it's extremely accurate. She presents the women as awkward, creative, and it all sort of feels a little natural, which is a credit to Greta because she's not only starring in the film, but she had a hand in writing it. Reviews call her unlikable because of her awkwardness, but I think that's what is relatable because she's not a Hollywood version of a woman. She feels like someone you know, and this is a credit to what makes the film so likeable and rewatchable.
Interesting. And would you say that the way that women are presented in the film is representative to our society?
Absolutely. Women in the film are awkward, passionate and very driven, which I think is very accurate to what makes us women, and also people I've met. I also love how it shows a hidden side of womanhood that's not always shown in the media, such as the importance of women friendships. It's brave for a film to have a female friendship centre stage, however, for them to be the emotional core of the film is rarely heard of. And so it's so endearing to see, and honestly, to have a female film centred around a female friendship that does not have a man as their conflict or them arguing about a man, it's so refreshing and it's a lovely angle and I love to see it. Let's hope more films take note of this.
Yeah, well, thanks for that, Freya. Have a lovely evening. Thanks for coming on our first ever show.
Thank you for joining us. And now we are going to be taking a minute and we're going to be introducing Holly into our studio, who's going to be speaking to us about the new Taylor Swift film. Holly, thank you for joining us.
Hello, Holly.
I'm excited to sit on this count. Last but not least.
It's one in, one out.
One in, one out. But yes, if we have any Swifties tuning in, I'm sure you will know a thing or two about the new Eras Tour film coming to the cinemas this Friday. Taylor Swift has broken records again as her new film has been recorded as the most profitable concert film in history after making over $26 million in revenue in less than 3 hours of advanced ticket release. The star has now brought in over $100 million, making it set to be the biggest film this year before it has even hit the screens. The film will be shown across 8,500 cinemas in more than 100 countries, giving fans who weren't able to get tickets the chance to experience Taylor on the big screen without the big price tag. Standard tickets in the UK are set at £13.13, which, as Swifties know, is Taylor's lucky number. Coincidence? I think not. Make sure to get your tickets now for a night you will never forget. Do we have Swifties in the house?
I am a Taylor Swift fan.
I am a Swiftie, I would say.
She was like my first ever kind of album on CD that I bought when I was younger.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Even Taylor Swift broke records with even vinyl records. I mean, everything.
Yeah.
She's huge.
First song I learnt on guitar, Taylor Swift.
Really?
We're never getting back
Impressive.
together. There you go.
I want to hear it.
Yeah, I'll bring my guitar next time.
I think you should. Every Wednesday we have
every Wednesday. So we are coming to the end of our programme now, but before we go, make sure to follow our Instagram at Female Empowered Media.
And if you want to feature on next week's episode and tell your story, please feel free to message us on our Instagram.
Thanks for joining, and we hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you on the 23rd of October at 4 p.m. Goodbye.
Bye.